There you go. So, hello and welcome to Careers Conversations with Pro Academic.
So I guess probably the best place to start is to say, Dameli and Selim, do you just want to briefly introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Dameli. I was an international student in the UK. I took my A Levels there and studied at the British University. Today I work as a data science and machine learning engineer and also have my own business.
Hi, my name is Selim. I've also studied computer science at university at Uni of Leeds. And currently I'm a software developer for a company called Fleet on Demand, where we produce mobility and vehicle hire systems. And I also have some of my own side projects similar to Dameli. So yeah, that's a little about me.
Thank you so much. And I guess we'll introduce ourselves as well. So my name is Anya, and here with me is Nicola. We are both run a company called Pro Academic, which supports students with the university applications. We help students with finding the right courses for them, with writing a personal statement, preparing the super curriculum profile, and that's what we specialize in. And every month we run career conversation sessions where we invite graduates or representatives of different careers and pathways to talk about their experiences and their career choices.
Okay, so I guess one thing we're hoping to get out of today is that whilst Dameli and Selim have things in common, and particularly that would be the degree that they studied, that hopefully it will demonstrate that there's a huge range of entries into and exits out of that degree. So let's take you back, way back, and let's start with your sixth form options. And can you tell us what your sixth form options were and why you studied them, which might be difficult to answer, I guess, thinking way back when, but give it a go.
I'll start. In the sixth form, I took maths, further maths, business A Levels, and I also studied information and communication technology, which wasn't an A level, but was a BTEC. I had actually wanted to study computer science A level, but at that time, the CS A level wasn't that widespread. There were very few colleges that had offered this A level. So I opted out for ICT BTEC. My choice of subjects really reflected my interests at that time. As a matter of fact, I think all of them at the end of the day revolved around like the question how technical knowledge is applied to meet or deal with real life challenges. And that's why I combined maths and ICT with business.
Mine was somewhat overlapping to yours, Dameli, where I initially started with maths, further maths, A levels, and then I had physics and Spanish also. However, after my first year with A levels, the experience wasn't great overall. So, and I wasn't very pleased with my results also to carry on. So in the second year of sixth form, I picked up BTEC subjects to continue. And I also did BTEC ICT. And I was quite disappointed that the A-level computer science wasn't also available at the time too. And despite my path being rather unconventional, I was quite fortunate and glad that it still got me to the same end goal that I had originally had, which was, getting into the university I wanted for the degree I want.
And out of sort of subjects that you both studied, which ones did you sort of enjoy the most and gained most from?
That's a really good question. I think that I enjoyed most further maths because I just like maths in general, and I like the feeling of being able to solve hard problems. The knowledge of further maths also laid a really good foundation for a computer science course. At university, at a university as it made the studying less challenging. But I guess I gained most from the business A level because it was a step out of my comfort zone. I had never studied anything like that back in my home country, so it was something completely new and, let's say, exotic. By taking business A level, I really leveled up my skills at reasoning, analysis, and problem solving. The subject for me was really about being able to like justify your points of view, being able to back up them with evidence, all while being concise and crystal clear. It's just surprising how this subject changed my perception and attitude towards things. It was just so much about analysis and logic in real life, which was really surprising for me at that time. I can for sure say that the skills that I gained from studying business A level, I used during my studies at university, as well as at my job. And I think that I'll use them for the rest of my life. I can honestly say that I enjoyed all of my subjects, as well as I think benefited from all of them.
Well, that's great. And I like the fact that you actually can see relevance to them in your everyday life and in your job as well, that's great. What about you, Selim?
With mine, I think it was more of instead of the context of the subject, it was more of what I gained from doing the practical side of it. So even things like essay writing or preparing for the assignments, even minor things like referencing were handy skills to have going to university, because it was something that I didn't notice at the time that BTECs offered over the A levels. That was, quite a necessary thing to do correctly at university, because I did witness quite a few of my friends studying computer science not be aware of how to do, even basic stuff like referencing when it comes to writing a formal essay or like a research paper. So even that type of skills that I gained from it were useful, even if it wasn't the content specifically.
I can actually agree with Selim here. Like the CS degree is so much about writing like reports and technical reports and so many courseworks, and it's just very interesting how many students struggle with being able to put their thoughts on paper. It's actually a skill that I think everyone needs to be good at, and not all A-level students, especially the ones that focus on very technical subjects such as math, further math, physics, or chemistry, can do that. So something that you need to be really aware of.
It's really nice to hear that, actually, from two students who went into kind of non-vocational degrees, that actually there's a skill set that comes from BTEC. Even if it's not directly related to your degree, you are equipped with skills that you will find useful further on. Because I think it's safe to say that during its history, BTECs and its predecessors haven't always had the best of reputations. And I think that course now is much more difficult, more rigorous, but there's a skill underlying it that no matter what you go into provides some use. It's really nice as somebody who's taught BTECs to hear that, actually.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially with, sorry to interrupt, Nicola, with, in my degree at least, I'm not sure if it was the same case for you, Dameli, but after all, the work you produce is not assessed as much as the written paper that you attach to it. So it's really important to actually express and showcase your work in a written form rather than just demonstrating it.
Definitely. Yeah. And what's also great about BTEC is that it teaches you from the very beginning how to research. Mm. And at university, that's pretty much what you do 99% of time. The research is very important.
It's interesting. It's nice to hear a real positive from two people who've got experience of both qualifications. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you got those qualifications under your belt, and I guess the time comes to start looking at universities. So how did you choose your university? and was there a particular way in which you prepared for them, you know, through work experience or maybe super curricular activities?
Like choosing a university was really challenging for me because there are like a lot of good universities in the UK, and finding the right one for me seemed to be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Basically, what I did was just I listed everything that I wanted my course to be like and my student life to be like. So, for example, I knew that I wanted to study at a high-ranking university in computer science. I knew that I wanted my course to be less theoretical and more practical. I wanted my CS course to be something called sandwich course, which means that industrial placement is part of your course and it counts towards your degree. I wanted to live in a nice city, and I wanted my university to have strong links with the industry. I also wanted to take a study abroad year. So I also looked at the links between British universities and strong foreign universities. Like, I think those were my main criteria, and I studied at the University of Bristol. I'm not sure whether I mentioned it. And I'd say that Bristol ticked most of the boxes in my requirements list, except for the fact that they don't offer the sandwich course. So yes, that was a letdown, I guess. But some of their coursework for real life clients outside, but I still think that it doesn't really compare to real work experience.
Mine was a similar situation to yours as well, again, because it is definitely difficult to find the right university for you when you have hundreds of choices. I took a similar approach. I went through so many league tables, comparing their entry requirements, what each one had to offer. And I knew I wanted a city university, but also something that's not like more of a hybrid university, really, which is what Leeds offered very well. The campus is based on the edge of the city, and it's walking distance to the town center. And it was a great student life also, from what I've heard from everyone. And I think it really comes down to visiting all the options you have in front of you, going to open days, which I don't know how they are at the moment with the COVID restrictions, but just experiencing the campus, the facilities, the tours around the university, and speaking to lecturers, other students. And I think that really gives you a really good idea on what place is right for you.
I think you mentioned like ranking tables, and I feel like ranking tables are like probably the most important reference for many students, which is like a really big mistake. It should be just a reference. It shouldn't be like a deciding factor. So the higher the university in the table ranking doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best university for you, because like over like in 2015, the University of Bristol, I think, was in top 5. In 2012, I think it's somewhere on the 14th or 15th place. In 2017, I think it was somewhere, I don't know where. So it's just, it changes so drastically, and you really shouldn't kind of base such an important life decision actually on ranking tables. It's just a reference. And I think that although many like teachers at our college said that, like, advised us to not look at ranking tables, we still kind of based our decision on them. And I think that was somewhat of a mistake. I'd say that Selim is right. You need to really attend open days at university, see the universities themselves, and talk to students. I'd also advise to be very careful with students who don't talk about bad sides of their university, because every university is not perfect. And they sometimes, for example, when I was at an open day in Bristol, I think every university, every computer science open day is very much about like every person at that open day, they tell you how it's not important to learn a programming language, how they will teach you. But I think that's very important to actually come prepared and be at least good at one programming language. I think it's very important. But because the times they give you to learn a programming language is not enough, and there is definitely an advantage. There is definitely a disadvantage for you if you come completely unprepared. So you need to be very careful with the information that you hear during your open days.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I actually was in the position where I didn't actually know any proper programming before going into my degree. So I did definitely face the drawbacks of that lack of knowledge in my first year, especially in the first semester. And with the league tables, I do agree with you after having gone through the university experience, because I've made friends who studied at universities that ranked lower than my university, studying the same course, yet enjoying it a lot more because course content was tailored to be a lot more practical rather than essay-based, or the actual languages or the projects they got the students to do were a lot more up-to-date and modern, using newer languages and frameworks instead of the ones that I had to do, stuck from late 90s.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to hear you say that, because we recommend that ranking tables have their place, but that's within a selection of kind of factors. And actually, we're looking at entry requirements, meeting them, course content, and whether it's what you actually want to do rather than reputation and ranking. That kind of comes in a little bit later, and it almost gives you that backup bit of confidence that they do it, and they do it reasonably well. But as Dameli said, we would always say look at ranking tables over a period of time. Universities that shoot up and down are a bit of a worry. You're looking for good to be good, or to have kind of been around that mark for a while, rather than having universities that flit here, then everywhere. But it's really interesting to hear you both say that whilst universities are saying you don't necessarily need that, you both felt that you would have benefited or did benefit from having, programming as part of your bag before you arrived. Because I think it's sometimes easy to take the advice of the university and walk away and think, right, yeah, I'm fine without it. But actually listening to you two speak, you were both very clear about that's something you felt quite strongly about. It's kind of quite nice to hear you say that, and to kind of back one another up on that. So with your applications, did either of you do any work experience in computer science or related to the industry, or did you read any books, do any courses? Was there anything that you did other than your subjects to prepare yourselves for your university application?
I don't really remember exactly what I wrote in my personal statement, to be honest, but I think that I made a strong point to show my interest in computer science. And I think I mentioned a lot in my personal statement what I had already been doing to, let's say, become a computer scientist, such as building websites and programs. Unfortunately, I don't think I mentioned any other achievements. For example, I used to compete in swimming competitions and won a lot of gold medals. But I was shy to mention it, and I didn't, which I think was a big mistake. And today I kind of think you should be mentioning your other achievements in extracurricular activities to show how versatile you are. With regards to work experience, in the sixth form, I helped out a lot in our programming club, where I helped kids understand programming, and I even was like a teaching assistant several times during their ICT lessons. Due to this experience, I was noticed, and I went with one EdTech company to a big show. It's called the British Educational Technology Show in London, where I helped them demonstrate their projects. I can't remember whether I mentioned that in my personal statement. I don't think it really counts as working experience, but that was definitely an experience that I cherish a lot. But yeah, other than that, I think that my personal statement was just about, I think, demonstrating how I had already been doing things to become a computer scientist. But I think it lacked the extracurricular part. That's I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but this is just the feeling I have.
I know that you wrote better than that because I can remember it.
Yeah.
I can't necessarily remember the context,
Yeah.
you know, whether you referred to work experience, but I knew before you just said that then that you had been to a bet show with an educational company,
Okay.
and that can only have been a personal statement. So you did mention it.
Okay, that's good.
I wonder if you can remember mine also. With mine, with work experience, when I was younger, every summer I would always try to arrange something for myself, regardless of it being related to computer science or what I want to do in the future. So I've done everything from working at a pharmacy to a stock trader to eventually I did get a summer's experience at a computing business, but it wasn't directly related to software or programming. So I didn't actually gain any specific computer science knowledge. But the universities that I've applied to were definitely interested to hear more about what I learned, as well as what I gained from the other experiences. Like how you mentioned, Dameli, it's just all about being a well-rounded applicant overall. You know, it doesn't have to be all in specific field. And I've heard this directly from many admissions officers at universities that they don't want someone who is the best programmer. They want someone who is a good programmer and can solve the problems that they need, but also can do other things alongside it. So I think it's just building a good tool of a skill set overall.
I'd also like to mention that I didn't know that when I was an A-level student, but apparently there are a lot of opportunities for A-level students to enter big companies such as Amazon, Google, and so on, because they have, let's say, not internships. I think they're called differently. But let's say if you want to study computer science, you can apply to one of their, I think it's called associate program. I'm not sure, but basically, as an A-level student, you often think that you don't have enough experience and knowledge, and no one wants you. But that's not true. There are actually a lot of opportunities for you to start your career even at that stage, even in computer science.
Useful to know.
Yeah, I just can't remember how they're called. They're not called internships. I think associate. I'm not sure, but they're specifically tailored to A-level students. So they don't expect you to be able to, for example, create some kind of program or anything like that, or build a website or build a machine learning model. So that's great. That's a great opportunity.
So there's other ways.
I guess it's
into the industry.
Yeah, it's raw talent they're looking for, isn't it? Raw talent and a bit of commitment.
Yeah. I think they do have some kind of entry requirements based on your A-levels, but I guess say if you have 3 A stars, you can start your career in Google. I think that's a low bar, to be honest.
If you can't even to the audience watching this, even if you can't secure something like that with a big name, it might be quite a good idea to approach smaller local companies maybe, because I've in the past worked with students who approached the company I'm at currently, and we were more than happy to take them on for like a few days or a whole week during their half-term break, and it's just some work experience they get, and it's a good way for them to find out if it's something that they really want to dedicate the rest of their life to also. So even if you can't get something from the big names like Amazon or Google, it might still be a good opportunity to speak to smaller companies.
It's even better at some point, especially if you land an internship with a startup. You'll be able to talk to to the owner of the business directly, and usually I guess it gives you a bigger sense of being a part of something rather than working for a big company where you're just one of many.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just, I think the skills that you gain by working at a startup or any other small company is just a lot wider than I think in a big company. I, for example, work for a small company, but our business clients are actually like very big ones, such as Chevrolet. And it's just, don't judge a company by its size.
I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
It's similar story. I'm the company I'm with currently is not many people would have heard the name, but everyone knows the platforms we build for Enterprise, Avis, Europcar, and all the big names really across the world.
I guess it just goes to show there's layers of companies, isn't there? And not all of them are visible like Google and Amazon. And sometimes the smaller ones give you an opportunity to do more, because if it works and it works well, then that company can use your skills far more, and they've got the potential to learn more and experience more. Whereas perhaps the Amazon or Google or, you know, something like that of that size, what you do is more prescribed and more predefined, whereas in a little startup or a small company, you show a little bit of talent and they're going to grab that, because if they've got any sense, they're going to use what they've got to hand.
Definitely.
So we take you back to your university degree then, because you touched on the content and the things you liked about. So tell us more about your degree and what was the things that you maybe enjoyed most of all, or maybe there are things that were challenging, or tell us about that.
I think that it might be worthwhile mentioning what computer science is and who a computer scientist is. I think that Selim will agree that it's a very hard question.
It is because it expands to areas and fields that you would not even imagine.
Yeah, it's like you have a degree in computer science, but you're afraid so much of this question. I'll attempt to answer it, because I think it's very important to understand what computer science is, and it's very interesting how it's very difficult to describe. So as we said, the definition is not that straightforward, but computer science is it's an interdisciplinary science that combines elements of various fields of knowledge, ranging from like electromechanics to mathematics. Traditionally, computer science includes topics such as theory of algorithms, programming languages, systems, and construction of like computer networks, artificial intelligence, computing system architecture. In addition to these, there are new fields emerging. So because CS easily links to other sciences. So for example, quantum computing, you mentioned computational biology earlier, game theory, and so on. So the computer science course at Bristol covered a lot of fundamental subjects that allow you to venture in any CS direction. You want, be it like, for example, software development, language engineering, machine learning, data science, game development, computer vision, high performance computing, computer graphics, and so on. But it didn't provide enough skills, knowledge, and practice to be an expert at all of them. So I guess computer science is like a foundation degree, somewhat. It provides you, so after completing a computer science degree, you need to specialize in something, or you need to do it in parallel. I think that my course was definitely intensive workload-wise. There were a lot of subjects that seem to be sometimes kind of very different from each other, but also strongly connected. And I guess this fact was very hard, because they're different and similar at the same time, and you had to be good at all of them to continue your degree. But you can for sure say that it was very informative and laid, I think, a very good foundation for students to later specialize in a specific area of CS as they liked. The most challenging part, of course, was time management. The learning pace is fast. It's like really fast. You need to be able to multitask and work on several challenging courseworks at the same time. you need to research a lot, like 97% of your course is pretty much self-studying. And that's also very challenging because a lot of information is not that, like, there's a lot of information in the internet, but sometimes you need to be able to come up with solutions by just relying on just a few just a very limited amount of information. And I think that's the case for many computer science projects. What else? Here comes, of course, stress management, which you also need to be very good at, because there is so much to do, but there is so little time. But I need to kind of emphasize that the things that we study at university are not hard. They're not really that hard. I wouldn't say that A levels were, for example, a lot easier than any subjects that we studied at university. The challenge here is that you don't have enough time. So the time, so if, for example, to study matrices and vectors, you're given a year at A level, so I think it's module FP4. At university, it's just one lecture. So you just need to keep in mind that. But it's not about the complexity, it's about time and stress management. That's at least what I believe.
Thank you. That's really insightful. What about you, Selim? I know you had the course change as well.
Yes, I did change my course. I'll touch on that as well before I forget your original question, Anya. Where do I begin? Well, computer science, I think the best way to summarize it is we're problem solvers, I think. And whether that's by making something more efficient, making something smarter, automating something that's repetitive, doesn't matter. It's just improving whatever the task is, whether it's a problem or a goal that we want to achieve, just making that happen. It's sort of like magic in a way, some people say. Yeah, similar to your experience, Dameli, as well. Mine was very broad, especially in the first year. But I think the overall degree did lay a very good foundation, regardless of what you want to get into later in life. So I think it was good foundational, the main, it's like building a house. The foundation, the first bricks you lay are strong, and then you can take it wherever you want later on. There were a lot of optional modules that were available to us that that you could still take the direction that you have as a goal for yourself. So if it was something more visual or UI related that you wanted to do later in life, you could pick those modules. Or if it was something more DevOps work, working on servers, databases, that was also an option. So it really does give you the option to explore and take the path that you really enjoy the most. What was challenging for me? I think, like I've mentioned, not knowing a programming language before I started university was definitely a big obstacle in my way at the very start. And I found it really beneficial to have friends that were supportive, but also having the internet at my disposal, since a lot of the content and resources I've used to teach myself programming and problem solving as well was all available online. Time management is a big aspect also. There are a lot of courseworks and assignments that are due one after another. So having those completed successfully is always difficult. And about me changing course, because of the BTECs I've done at sixth form, I had to tailor my application accordingly also. So at University of Leeds, we have a course called Applied Computer Science, and then we have Computer Science, and then we have Computer Science with Artificial Intelligence. and they all have different entry requirements because of the content that they teach after the first year. So I got into applied computer science, which had the entry requirements that matched what I was studying at sixth form. But at the end of my first year, I was able to speak to the faculty and change my course. And they were happy to accommodate that request because my grades were meeting the requirements to perform that switch. So it was very straightforward, actually, surprisingly easy. It was just a few forms, and then as soon as the requirements were matching, next year I was doing the new course.
That's great.
I think for me, that's hopefully a real reassurance for anybody who's watching this who perhaps route A isn't available to them, because we often find that you speak to someone and they know what they want to do, but they've not quite got what is required to get there. Slightly more straightforward for Dameli, who had the right kind of qualifications, but you knew you were capable, you just needed the opportunity to prove it. And accessing into a different course and then making the most of that year to really show them what you were capable of allowed you that opportunity to transfer. And I hope that kind of becomes a good message for other people, that actually it's not about getting to the end destination in one single straight line. It's actually finding whichever path gets you there, and just working damned hard when you get your first steps on the path to show that you're worth that move, that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so after the graduation, you touched on a little bit about your work now. Can you tell us a little bit more? And I'm particularly interested in your private ventures as well. So you're obviously both doing something else apart from your employment. Could you share a little bit more about your sort of career aspirations and the progression after the course?
Sure, yeah. So today I work as a data science and machine learning engineer, but as a matter of fact, I think just a year ago I was a software developer, which was the case because I couldn't find any job opportunities for like junior data science or junior machine learning positions. So I had to, I guess, diverge a little bit and work as a software developer, which wasn't really my goal, to be honest. So I had to wait a little bit. And when I applied for a job, I was very clear that I actually was looking for a data science or machine learning position. So I guess after some time, I had to leave that company because I felt like if I continued that path, because software development and data science, machine learning, those are different areas, and it takes effort, time to progress in any of them. So I decided to concentrate, to leave my job and just wait a little bit for opportunities to come in. And unfortunately, for several months, there were not any whatsoever. And I was therefore working as a freelancer, kind of just trying to build my portfolio, which was apparently very useful to me, because when an opportunity came up, I was immediately admitted. They really liked my portfolio. They really liked the fact they didn't really care about me not having much experience in that area in data science and machine learning, because they saw that I had a lot of projects related to that area. They really liked the fact that despite not having basically a job, I showed a lot of interest and I worked in that area. Just we call it hobby projects, just working on my hobby projects and sometimes freelance projects as well.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Selim?
Yeah, so since I've graduated, I've joined back to the company I did my placement year with, which I was very happy to be welcomed back and receive an offer from them, considering we're in the middle of a pandemic when I graduated. So yes, I've been working there for since September last year again, and I'm with a different team now. So despite it being the same company, it's like a new job. And outside of that, I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. So I've always had something that I wanted to do on the side of my own. And I'm currently working on a student oriented platform. So it's sort of dedicated to universities and university students. But I won't give too much of it away right now, but you'll be the first ones to find out when we launch, I'm sure.
Yeah, we look forward to that. Oh, that's great. And what do you both?
Can I?
Oh, yeah, go on.
Sorry, Annie, can I jump in and just say, for anybody who doesn't know, can you briefly, and I'm sure this will be tricky, explain exactly what your job title means? What is a data scientist and machine learner?
Okay. Second hard question, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You knew that would come in though.
Sure. So I think that data science nowadays is very popular, as well as machine learning. It's probably one of the most popular professions in computer science as far as I know. So for example, when we were writing our dissertations, I think almost everyone's dissertation was in the area of machine learning or data science. So the explanation is in the name. Data science is very much about information. It's about gaining insights from that information. Data science is very useful for businesses as well as governments, because basically it helps you to make data-driven decisions. They usually this kind of information is usually combined with common sense and business knowledge, and it results in usually in very good business decisions. So this is basically it. We just analyze data. Well, first of all, we are given some kind of questions, some kind of problems that we need to answer. There are some data scientists extract data, find data, structure data, but there is another profession called data engineer who are supposed to do that. So in big companies, there are definitely data engineers, but sometimes data scientists do that as well. We make sense, we structure the data, make sense out of it, and then find patterns, analyze it, and try to derive a solution, some kind of insight from that data, and give that to stakeholders or our manager or whatever. So it's just basically about making data-driven. So we just help make data-driven decisions. Well, machine learning is slightly different. So it's about building models that help automatically make that decisions based on input data. So if in the first case a person derives insights from the data, in the second case we build let's say just computer models that automatically make this kind of decisions for us. And those are different areas, but also very much interlinked. And just my position combines two professions. Usually you are either a data scientist or you're a machine learner, but if you are working for a small company, you can be both. So go for startups, go for companies.
We've probably become quite familiar with that process through the pandemic, because certainly within this country, you know, we often talk about data-driven decisions, and, you know, they will respond to what the scientists say. Now, whatever you believe politically, I guess that highlights that kind of job, in the sense that we've taken all of our testing information, and that's how they find new variants, and that's how they project, you know, figures of cases rising or cases reducing. So I suppose the pandemic has brought to life the job that you do in an everyday kind of way. Not something perhaps that anybody would have expected or wanted, but it's quite useful to hear what you say and think, oh, that's always what we're hearing in the news at the moment.
What's interesting about COVID is that there were a lot of competitions that were related to analyzing COVID data. And what's great about data science is that it's so you can work with any data, be it related to the medical field, be it related to the mining industry, which is the case for me nowadays. You don't necessarily need to have that niche knowledge. So for example, medical knowledge or mining knowledge, because what we are looking for, patterns, we use mathematical tools to analyze data. And it's just, I guess, another way to look at the data. So you as a data scientist can help, for example, doctors to look at the disease from another point of view. And there is something inspirational about that.
Definitely.
What I also would like to mention is that if we are talking about future, what I see becoming more and more popular is I think it's called meta profession, where you are where you have professional knowledge from two different fields. So say a person who has a degree in medicine and data science is a very valuable person in the I guess in the business world, because he can use the tools from two different fields, and it can really lead to great results. I think that just the future is about being versatile. So it's not, so computer science, so it's not enough today to be just a good programmer. It's about having that extra knowledge as well. I think that's what's very important. So even the people that I talk to, one of my friends is an architect and she knows how to code. So it's no longer an advantage to just know how to code. You need to be, you really, I think that in 10, 15 years, you need to bring something extra, some other knowledge and serious knowledge, not just surface knowledge.
That's a very good tip. What do you both look forward to in terms of your future career? What plans do you have?
You go, Selim. Answer that.
Like I've mentioned briefly, I think working on something of my own permanently full time is, something always in my list of goals. But I think to add to it, expanding my skill set also, technology is, it's always very fascinating, and how quickly it moves as well. There are always new things that come, and things that you thought 5 years ago would be irreplaceable are now being rarely used these days. And it's always staying up to date it's difficult, but it's also quite interesting. So I think that constant evolution and staying on top of it. So I think I would want to expand my skill set further as some of my short-term future goals.
Thank you. That's great.
I think that Selim mentioned one very important fact. I think what everyone who wants to study or work in the computer science area needs to really understand is what Selim said. Technology is developing very fast. Something that you knew, something that you learned yesterday might be outdated tomorrow, and it can be sometimes somewhat demotivating. If you want to be a computer scientist, you need to love the process of learning, because you will be learning for the rest of your life, always studying, self-studying. You also need to be somewhat not afraid of challenges, of not knowing how to do something, because I think that most computer scientists don't know how to solve many of the problems they face. They just figure it out. And to be honest, that's a skill. So always being positive, always having that can-do attitude. It's very important in the computer science area. It's just very important. So it's just, you really need to keep in mind. It's great that technology is like developing so fast, but it means that you also need to constantly keep up with it, and it can be a challenge. There is a famous, not a famous, but today a lot of computer scientists talk about it, the imposter syndrome, which means that you think that you are not qualified to be where you are at. And for example, you are studying at a high-ranking university, and then you're struggling, and then you think that you don't deserve to be there. That's called an imposter syndrome. You deserve to be there. It's just you need to work on your self-confidence.
I think that's what really creates the, oh, apologies, Nicola.
No, it's okay.
That's what creates some of the pressure, as well as the time management difficulty, really, not only at the degree, but also even, you know, your day-to-day work, because some problems you come across are, you know, it's something that, you know, you can't find any resources online for, and you end up spending a ridiculous amount of time for something that, you know, started off as a very minor challenge.
That
I think in some ways, sorry, Dameli.
No, you continue. Say that.
A bit of imposter syndrome can almost be a little bit helpful, because it keeps you on your toes. It makes you never sit back and think, I've got this, I know everything there is to know. And in your industry, that's probably the worst thing anybody can do, is to think they've got it nailed. So it's almost never allowing that imposter syndrome to take over and make you doubt yourself, but having enough of it just to keep going. I have never learned everything. I have never learned everything, and I need to keep going, because I guess without people like you, we don't get the technological advances that we do. Most young people are horrified to think that 30 years ago, mobile phones were just beginning to exist and look like a house brick. And, you know, you think about what they're like now and what we're capable of doing with them, not just ringing someone. That kind of, you know, of pace of change is phenomenal.
It is, yeah. But also, like, coming back to that programming, the reason why, like, I think that computer science courses are full of people who are like, one of my friends, for example, started coding at the age of 7. It was very intimidating to sit next to him during programming classes. And it's just, I think there are certain skills that you need to acquire before going to a computer science course. It's just, you don't have to, but it will make your life so much easier. And just, for example, your first year will probably be like about object-oriented programming languages and functional programming languages, but they will not teach you one particular programming language. It's kind of like they give you the skills to learn any programming language easily, but and it's great, it's amazing, but it's just having that confidence that you can code it in one particular programming language. It just gives you an advantage, even just gives you a confidence boost.
Definitely, it's understanding those key principles of, you know, programming or solving that problem that really makes it a lot easier learning a new language or a framework.
And it just will be easier kind of to fight that imposter syndrome when you sit next to these geniuses.
Yeah, allows you to put that imposter back in his box a little bit.
Yeah.
So you've kind of answered our next question, really. I'm going to kind of encapsulate two in one. If you were to talk to a student who's thinking about making an application for computer science, I'm guessing one of the strongest messages would be coding, programming, having at least some knowledge and understanding of it. I guess, do you have any recommendations on, is there a particular one that you think might be better? And what, I think the other message that I heard earlier on in this was you talking about your hobby projects, your outside interests. Work experience might be quite tricky to get as a 16, 17-year-old. Do you think there's value in that, and that can then be used in someone's application?
Can I just think a little bit? You go, Selim.
Yeah, sure. I think regardless of the age or being able to, well, I think any company would, when they see the enthusiasm and that drive to learn, I'm sure they would be more than happy to give that sort of experience day or like that week for them to shadow one of their software developers or data scientists or whatever that role that they're ambitious about, maybe. Because, you know, at that age, when you see it working and that spark is created in your head, and it's one of those things where your program might not work for days, but when it's working, that boost, that emotion is just nothing else. So when someone at that age experiences that, I think they will be hooked already to it if it's the right path for them. And I think that's the key, really, finding what is right for you, for that individual, finding what you enjoy. Because when I was doing my course change from applied computer science to computer science with AI, I thought I was really going to enjoy the data engineering, data mining, artificial intelligence and machine learning side of the computer science world, which wasn't the reality. So I've not enjoyed it as I've expected initially. So it's just trying out many things, I think, within the field, and then finding what suits you. And then for courses and resources to get your experience to start off with, I think there are a lot of valuable websites and platforms. Few that come to mind are things like Udemy is great, but I would suggest picking something that you are passionate about, because if you learn a programming language or a framework that's on web development or building a mobile application, but your heart is actually at data science or, you know, processing or sorting data, you're not really going to enjoy the mobile application or web design stuff. So it's just finding something in the field. So things like Udemy is great. There are a lot of content creators on YouTube that publish free videos. If there's an interest you have on front end or UI, UX, front end masters is a really good one, especially recommended to me by my colleagues who are specializing in UI. If you want to do web applications and PHP work, maybe it's an old language, but it's still very widely used. Laracast is a great one. That's one of the first ones that I've used for my web development work. And if you want some face-to-face experience, there are a lot of coding bootcamps across the UK, and I'm sure internationally as well. I know a few people that have attended some here up north called North Coders. So I think it lasts about a month and a half, maybe 2 months, and they take you through an intensive coding bootcamp. And at the end, you receive a certificate and you're ready to go into a junior developer role. And quite a few people I know have used them and found it really valuable. They've made career changes straight after the course. So it's just, you know, finding courses and content like that. Even speaking to people in the industry might help guide you in the right path.
Thank you so much. That's really useful. So I guess do we have any questions? Let me just check. There are no questions. Luana just said thank you for some useful tips, and she shared some A levels that they're studying at the moment. Yeah, one question.
Oh, one question. I think while the question comes up,
yeah,
looking at that set of A levels, I immediately think of you, Selim, as opposed to Dameli. Dameli had those straight analytical A levels that allowed her to go straight into computer science. I think that set of A levels would probably require a more applied approach to begin with, and then, you know, very much like you did, jump in there and show them what you're capable of.
Yeah, my recommendation would be speaking to universities and, you know, obviously checking their entry requirements also. Because I remember myself 5-6 years ago expressing the concern I've had about going into computer science when I'm not doing the core requirements like A-level maths or having any computer science or programming background. And depending on the university, I'm sure you'll find one that's accommodating of your subject choices.
Yeah. So question here, should someone choose to do different degree, example psychology, if they want to go into cybersecurity?
I don't think so.
No?
I would disagree personally, because I think it would be, regardless of what the courses are, I think, like you've mentioned, Dameli, on, having mixed skills that are, both useful to the job you're doing. I've met some of the best programmers who have not graduated with a computer science degree. I've met people who didn't study computer science or any degree at all, or some that are completely unrelated on paper, at least, such as psychology or sociology. So it's definitely doable, and in some cases even more beneficial to have another degree, but still have and to still exercise that interest of yours in computer science or programming.
I come from, like, I think that you're absolutely right, Selim, that you don't necessarily have to have a computer science degree. It's just if you're is she interested in cybersecurity, she said?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So cybersecurity is just, let's say, just cybersecurity to be is about, it's really you really need to have a very good fundamental knowledge, and I think that computer science provides it. It doesn't necessarily mean that by graduating with a computer science degree you will automatically become a great cybersecurity engineer or whatever, right? But it will give you that foundation that will maybe one day make you like a great, maybe worldwide known cybersecurity professional. I think that it's just when it comes to security, like we are talking about computer architecture, we are talking about computer networks, we are talking about software development. To be a cybersecurity professional, you need to have a very wide knowledge, and you need to be really good at it. And I agree with Selim. If there is a course in cybersecurity that is just so very, very well tailored, then go for it. But do not teach the computer science path at all, because computer science path can give you that fundamental knowledge that may seem not relevant, but one day it might pay off. And you can also like specialize in later in cybersecurity. It's just there are two paths, and that neither of them is wrong. I think that any of them will take you where you want to be, and you will have to work hard regardless of whatever choice you make. It's just cybersecurity is one of the hardest computer science areas, and it requires a lot of knowledge from different areas of computer science.